Hey, everybody, it's Judah. I'm so glad you are taking time out of your life, your day, these moments to spend with us here at Churchome and to spend with me. I am currently in a studio recording this, but imagining where you might be in your life, imagining what chapter or season or moment you are facing. We are now in March, now in my side of the world, in our country. There is a big basketball tournament that happens in March that makes me smile and makes me happy. We call it March Madness. It's our college teams competing here to be the number one team in the country. So shout out to college basketball fans in the United States of America or around the world. I love this time of year, and I'm thinking about you. Our community exists not to facilitate programs or content. We ultimately exist to serve you as best as we possibly can. Can I just say this? The best thing you might do right now is actually stop watching this content, go over to Pastor Chat on our app, and maybe talk with people who are waiting to speak with you and encourage you and just process a little bit of life with you. Can I say that you're probably doing better than you think you are? You're probably, the fact that you're watching this content kind of speaks volumes about you. You want to grow. You want to develop. You want to explore your soul. You want to explore spiritual dynamics in your life. And I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for investing in what I think is the most valuable element or part or essence of you, and that's your soul. One of the things that really kind of marks my journey through time and space here on earth is this idea that Jesus said, what does it profit a human who gains literally everything there is to gain, substance and stuff and popularity and prominence, but in the process of gaining all that, you lose your essence, you lose your soul, you lose who you really are on the inside. We're dedicated here at Churchome to your soul. And I hope in some small way that the next few moments that we share, me in the studio and through the magic of technology, you now watching wherever you are in the world, that perhaps we can connect and you can feel things like a buoyancy in your soul, feel maybe even a sliver or sense of hope that might help you carry on the rest of your day, or maybe fall fast asleep and wake up refreshed and renewed tomorrow morning for another day. This is not going to be news to anybody watching this, but life is not easy, and it can be painful and it can be difficult. And we are here to help and to aid you and to encourage you. And might I add, taking baths help. Like, that's like my thing, but I love taking baths. I took one this morning and that's my thing. So also, a friend of mine told me his thing is to go to his local coffee shop early in the morning, and usually in his pajamas, which is kind of odd, but he goes and gets a cup of coffee and just kind of sits. And before he picks up his phone, I'm hoping that maybe Churchome can spark some of that in you. What are some of the things you do to kind of exhale, let go a little bit, rest, relax, and reflect? So I'm excited to present to you a collection of talks that I'm going to do for the next 5 weeks on innocence, right? What an interesting topic. And how Jesus, my hero, can return to you, or maybe for the first time perhaps, grant you a sense of innocence. Now, if you look up the word innocence in the dictionary here in the United States of America, Webster's dictionary, it will tell you the state of being not guilty. So quite literally, the next 5 weeks, I'm going to dedicate to the state of being unguilty, not guilty. Imagine life without guilt. Like, think about that for a moment. Imagine life without guilt. Guilt has cousins, the cousins of guilt are a sense of anxiety, a sense of doom, a sense of hopelessness, pointlessness. I'm guilty. I don't deserve anything. I'm a failure. Life's probably going to be difficult. Today's probably going to be hard. And over a process of time, things like cynicism settle in. Because why? Well, we feel like we've failed. We feel like we don't measure up. We feel like we watch people maybe on YouTube or on the internet or on television, and you're like, man, I'm not great like them. I'm not beautiful like them. I'm not healthy like them. I'm not smart like them. I'm not well read like them. I was sitting next to a 7-year-old the other night at a diner with his parents and family. And that day, this 7-year-old had read 164 pages on his Kindle. He's 7 and he has a Kindle, right? I mean, and I thought 164 pages, that's more than I've read in the last year. And I'm looking at the 7-year-old thinking, what is wrong with me? I'm almost 47 and this 7-year-old reads more than me. There's always going to be somebody somewhere, some dinner, some diner, some Kindle, who reads more than you, smarter than you, thinks more than you, cares more than you, loves more than you, forgives more than you. Before you know it, you feel insufficient, incomplete. I know I feel like that. Let me tell you a story. I was having a lunch with a 28-year-old recently, an extraordinary young man who's doing incredible things on the internet, by the way, and helping people all over the world. And I really actually admire him so much. And we were having some eggs and toast. And we were sitting there, and he was sharing this new idea he had for not only a business, but a way to really add value to people. And I got to tell you, being my age, he started to share the idea. And you know where my mind went? It was embarrassing. My mind immediately went to, I've heard this before. I've had friends do businesses like this. I've had friends who said they were going to make a difference, and well, no difference was made. Nothing really came of it. And what's weird at my age is I'm looking at this young man thinking, this is not new. This is not fresh. This is probably not going to work. Should I tell him? And you ever get like a kind of a jolt, almost like lightning, like, what is wrong with me? Cynicism. What is wrong with me? By the way, I think that's the definition of getting old, where young people share dreams with you and you go, yeah, probably not. Like, I think that old is not an age. I don't think old is even gray hair, I hope. I think old's a mentality. And I realized, oh, it's happening to me. And if I'm really honest, I think as I explored those feelings, this young man is sharing all these thoughts with me, and I kind of got lost in my own thoughts of why can't I celebrate this young man's dreams? Why can't I look at him and go, do it, bro? I'm with you. I believe in you. Beat the odds. Change the world. Build this company. Service people. Help those in need. Yes, yes, yes. Instead, I wanted to tell him the 4 or 5 reasons why it simply wouldn't work. Well, it's because life has happened to me. If I can be honest, life has happened to me. And life is trying to tell me a story. And I wonder sometimes, am I listening? What we're doing here, if I'm honest, is I'm going to tell you a story in a moment. It's an ancient story. It's a story that's some 2,000 years old. But I'm going to tell you a story, and the truth is something very dynamic is about to happen to you and to me. Because there's already a story going on in your head right now, and that story is telling you something about your reality, your life, your perspective, your value perhaps, your significance perhaps, your purpose, all these really imperative things to the human existence and moving through time and space here on earth. And the question is this: which story will you listen to? A story of love and forgiveness and acceptance and value? Or a story of cynicism and anxiety and fear and injustice and pain and agony? I'm not saying that pain and agony and injustice is not legitimate and amongst us and real. But perhaps there's a transcendent story happening to all of us that can grant us a sense of significance and value and meaning. Innocence is the word I'm thinking on these next several weeks. Innocence. I suppose looking at this 28-year-old, I kind of envied him. I was like, man, his eyes were wide open. He showed me an image of the product he was envisioning and the business he was going to build. And it was hard for me even to celebrate the spectacular colors in the image and the product, because again, it's like I've seen this before. I've lost some innocence, haven't I? Life has happened to me, and Suddenly, my loss of innocence has led me to cynicism, being critical, suspicious, doubtful. I don't know. And now, with squinted eyes, I'm listening to the dreams of a young man. Has that happened to you? Did you wake up this morning, or are you going to bed tonight with the thought of like, this is hard. This sucks. My job, I don't like it. My friends, I think they talk about me. What am I doing here? What's the point of it all? Where am I headed in life? I want to address some of those feelings. And I admit, like, it's pretty complex and it's a lot. Maybe by now we're 10 minutes into this content and you're like, all right, well, I was kind of hoping for a little bit of a pep talk here, and we're kind of delving into some painful, difficult stuff. Is this going to get good? I think it's going to get good. I think you and I can help each other in these moments. What I'd like to do for the next 5 weeks is go over the same story and extrapolate for you 5 moments that a man by the name of Zacchaeus has with my hero, Jesus. And I think what Jesus did for Zacchaeus, he can do for you. I think the reason we have the story of Jesus and Zacchaeus is because in many ways, we are Zacchaeus a lot. And we need Jesus to meet us and encounter us the same way he met with Zacchaeus. So let me read this story to you from Luke chapter 19, starting in verse 1. I'm just going to read 9 verses. And as I read these verses, you don't have to remember them, but I just want you to hear the story from the ancient text. I'm going to read it to you in a newer translation called the Passion Translation, which brings a lot of depth and dynamic and color to the story. And then I'll share some backstory and some context that will help us set up together the next 5 weeks of exploring, perhaps, maybe, possibly, what Jesus did for Zacchaeus, he can do for you and me, and maybe some of our innocence can be restored. Maybe we can live without a sense of guilt and fear, but a sense of optimism and hope. Luke chapter 19, verse 1 says, in the city of Jericho, there lived a very wealthy man named Zacchaeus. He was the supervisor over all the tax collectors. As Jesus made his way through the city, Zacchaeus was eager to see Jesus. He kept trying to get a look at him, but the crowd around Jesus was massive. Zacchaeus was a very short man. By the way, side note, this is really inconsequential, but do you know the internet says I'm 5'6"? If you Google my height, I know, I didn't know this, but my kids have made me aware of this, and some of the staff here at Churchome, it says I'm 5'6". Recently, one of our youth leaders did interviews of people at the lobby in the Saban Theater in LA and asked how tall people thought I was, and I got 5'7" and 5'6". For the record, I'm 6'1.5". With my shoes on, I'm 6'2". But anyways, that's beside the point. Zacchaeus was a very short man and couldn't see over the heads of the people. So he ran on ahead and, very innovative, climbed up a blossoming fig tree. Fig trees, their limbs kind of hang low, and so it would have been easy for him to access. So he climbs the fig tree to get a glimpse of Jesus as he's passing by. Jesus is, honestly, he's a celebrity. People are mobbing him just at the way he talks, the way he moves, the miracles he does. And Zacchaeus himself wanted to get a look at this new popular figure. When Jesus got to that place, he looked up into the tree. Wow. He said, Zacchaeus. Just at the mention of his name, Zacchaeus must have been taken aback, thinking, how does he know my name? Hurry on down, for I'm appointed to stay at your house today. So he scurried down the tree and came face to face with Jesus. And Jesus left to go with Zacchaeus. Many in the crowd complained. They whispered, they gossiped. Look at this. Of all the people to have dinner with, he's going to eat in the house of a crook? Zacchaeus joyously welcomed Jesus and was amazed over his gracious visit to his home. Zacchaeus stood in front of the Lord and said, half of all that I own, I will give to the poor. And Lord, if I've cheated anyone, which he had cheated pretty much everyone, I promise to pay back 4 times as much as I stole. Jesus said to him, this shows that today life has come to you. and your household, for you're a true son of Abraham. The Son of Man has come to seek out and to give life to those who are lost. One of my favorite stories in all of the Bible, and I can't tell you how excited I am to explore this story in depth over the course of the next 5 weeks. What I've essentially done is, in an effort to understand what I think Jesus can do for you and what he did for Zacchaeus, is I'm going to give you 5 phrases over the next 5 weeks that I think Jesus, in essence, is communicating to Zacchaeus and perhaps communicating to you directly. Yeah, you watching this right now, that would give you that gift, that state of being not guilty. Just for a second, let's use our imagination. Imagine if you didn't feel guilt anymore. Some would argue, well, you need a sense of guilt. If you're mean to a pet, if you make a baby cry, if you don't, hold the door open for somebody, if you need to feel guilt. Well, I think you need to feel conviction. I think you need to feel a sense of I probably shouldn't have done that. I disrespected somebody's parents, or I was dismissive, or I was rude, I was crude. A sense of, hey, that's not who I am. But guilt is that feeling of shame. Guilt is that feeling that what's the use and what's the point? I'm a nightmare, I'm a train wreck, and I'll never be good for anything. Imagine if you didn't have that feeling anymore for the rest of your life. What would your days look like? What would your weekends look like? What would your relationships look like? Some of you are looking for that special someone to spend the rest of your life with. Imagine if guilt wasn't a part of that at all. Imagine if you lived in the state of not being guilty for the rest of your life. Imagine somebody gave me an Oura ring for a gift. So this pinky ring is an Oura ring, which is supposed to be doing all these sleep studies, but nobody told me you have to charge your Oura ring all the time. So now I have another thing that I have to charge. And my wife, who's a concrete sequential and loves these routines, is like, how's your Oura ring doing? How's your sleep cycle? And I'm like, my sleep cycle? I'm trying to get on the app and it won't upload because the Bluetooth and then the ring's dead. So I'm literally wearing an Oura ring right now that I think has been dead for days. But apparently it's supposed to give me this incredible readback on my sleep cycles, which I'm not sure why I need to know about that, but I guess it's going to tell me I drink too much coffee, or when I'm communicating on these cameras like this that I need to get more rest. But imagine, even without an Oura ring and learning about your sleep cycles, how much better you'd sleep if you didn't feel guilty. So many things I do that I don't like that I do because I'm trying to compensate for guilt. But if I truly felt innocent, boy, it would change so much. The other day, I was having a conversation with somebody and I name dropped, right? I wanted them to know that I know that person, and I've and you ever done that and you see the person kind of go, oh, oh, all right, yeah, okay, and they almost feel bad. And then in your mind, you go, why did I do that? And if we're really honest, I'm not trying to be your psychologist today, but we do it because we feel like we need to tell that person that we are important. We know people. We're a big deal. What are we compensating for? I think secure people. I think calm people. I think attractive people. They're not driven by guilt. They're driven by love. What if that happened to you? What if you became that attractive, magnetic person who didn't have to prove yourself, didn't have to come into a room and tell everybody in so many different ways, I'm important, I'm here. Does anybody see my talents and my gifts and my abilities and what if you were able to affirm others, encourage others? I actually think what we're talking about for the next few weeks will help you do that. So here's my first observation. Before I give you that, let me give you a quick backstory on Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus is a crook of the highest order. Zacchaeus is essentially how should I say? He runs kind of a gang. He runs a a sophisticated system that steals and robs from his own people. Zacchaeus is Jewish, but he has gotten in cahoots with Rome. And Rome essentially has told him, if you will collect taxes for us in a popular harbor or popular city like Jericho, if you will collect taxes for us, our rightful taxes, you can add any excess or extra taxes on your own people and pocket it. This man is a thug. So what Zacchaeus has done, and by the way, notice what the scripture says, he's wealthy, he's rich. You know how Zacchaeus got rich? Stealing from his own people. Robbing from little old ladies, robbing people, showing up at their homes and saying Rome is demanding taxes. Under the guise of Rome, Zacchaeus was filling his pockets from his own people, the Jewish people. So, by the time we pick up our story in Luke chapter 19, Zacchaeus is what they call a non-Jew. He has been well and truly rejected by his own ethnicity, by his own people, and said to be a traitor to Rome, and they want nothing to do with him. He was an enigma. He was gossiped about. He was joked about. There were probably cheers made to jeer him at parties. This is to the demise of Zacchaeus, and everybody would drink and laugh and mock and whisper and gossip. This is not a good man. This is not a noble man. This is not a considerate man. This is not a gracious man. There seems to be, as it were, to the ancient Jews, this idea that there's nothing good in that man. That man is crooked through and through. That's Zacchaeus. Now, here's the irony. You know what the name Zacchaeus means in the original language? It means pure and innocent. Oh, the irony, because he's anything but. Nothing about Zacchaeus is pure. Now, maybe it was back in his childhood, but he's so far from innocent. He's so far from not guilty. He is guilty with a capital G. This guy is not good. So maybe in our ancient text already, you kind of got a heart for Zacchaeus. You're like, I kind of like this guy. Well, I got news for you. In his day, nobody liked him. Not even sure his own family liked him. He literally made his money by lying, cheating, manipulating, gaslighting, and stealing. And something very outrageous happens in our story. The pure one, the innocent one, the only human that has ever lived without sin. His motives were pure. His actions were true. His heart perfect. That Jesus stops at the bottom of the tree Zacchaeus has climbed. Now, that moment in and of itself is magnificent to me, because I think the whole crowd must have went into a holy hush, as for some odd reason, Jesus suddenly stops in what was probably a wild, loud entourage of celebrating this new crowned celebrity. And Jesus stops and looks up at the thug of all thugs and says his name. Zacchaeus, innocent, pure, come down. And that's where the restoration of your innocence begins, right here at the bottom of the proverbial tree you and I have climbed in this life. You know what guilt causes us to do? Climb the tree. You know, the scripture says we're all short. I know Zacchaeus, it speaks of his literal height, and I know you think I'm 5'6", but that's not really what the text is about. Zacchaeus' height is a metaphor for you and me. We all fall short and feel short in this life. Do you know what I mean? As a husband, I feel short. As a dad, I feel short. As a friend, I feel short. As a preacher, I feel short. I went to a gatherings of preachers last night, and I saw an old friend I've been friends with for 27 years, and we hugged each other, and he's been working out. And I said, "Are you taking steroids?" And he laughed and didn't give me an answer, but he looked at me, and I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "I'm a fool. I sin and screw up all the time, but God's been so gracious to me." I got tears in my eyes, and I hugged him, and I said, "It's exactly how I feel. I feel short just like you, man. I do." So you know what we do when we feel short? We find things to climb to make ourselves feel better. Zacchaeus' case, to see Jesus, he thought, well, I've got to climb this tree. And no, that's exactly how the tradition of religion works. You and I believe that we got to climb the proverbial tree of good deeds and efforts and works and religion so that perhaps we can get a glimpse of God. Why? Because from just where I live, I'll never see God. I got to climb. I got to work. I got to try. I got to do better. I mean, isn't that the American motto in my country that I live in? The motto of this country is do better, try harder, and perhaps make something of your life. That's the American dream. Climb, climb, climb. Work, work, work. You don't like your life? Work. Try harder, do better. Football coach vibes. Friday nights in America. You want to be good? You got to practice. You got to work hard. You got to tackle. You got to pass. You got to run. Come on. This is life. This is America. Make something of your life. Okay, yeah, all right. And we carry that right into our view of God and ourselves. You are what you make yourself. Make something of your life. Pull up the proverbial bootstraps and do something. Climb, climb, climb. Work, work, work. Try, try, try. Read 164 pages like the 7-year-old you're sitting by in a diner. You're like, oh man, I gotta read more. Leaders are readers. I gotta give more. I gotta do more. I gotta love more. I gotta care more. I gotta think more. I gotta listen more. It's never ending, right? If you're like me, even turning on content like this, even the name Churchome, particularly the church part, it's kind of got you on your heels. You're like, man, maybe you're with a friend right now. I was like, hey, man, check out this preacher I listened to. And you're like, oh, boy, here we go. This is going to be rich. This is going to be good. And what you've prepared for is essentially a football coach to give you a pep talk of how you got to get out of this locker room of life and get out there and work, 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 and pass and tackle and run and try. And you'll get out of it what you put into it. And that's our message, isn't it? It doesn't lessen the sense of guilt and shame. Ironically, it increases it. But if you have a good day, or maybe a good few days, or a good weekend, or a good week, or a good month, woo, you can feel good. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. You know, you went to confessional this week, or you gave money to somebody in need, or we do all these things to compensate for the gnawing guilt that we feel. Some of us, we can't be still and we can't be quiet because we're haunted by that guilt. Listen to the words of Jesus. This is the phrase I give you as a gift this week. Jesus says to Zacchaeus, he says his name, Zacchaeus. How does he know his name? How does he know his name? Some argue that because he's God, the name came to him. Maybe perhaps he hadn't even heard of him, but his name came to him. Pure, innocent one. Listen to these words. Hurry down. Hurry down. Now, friends, I'm almost done. But one thing you need to take note of in this passage, it is rare, if ever, and this may be the only time that Jesus ever uses the word hurry, because he's never in a hurry, except right here. He wants you to hurry down from trying, doing, improving yourself, and compensating for your own guilt. Stop right now. Stop right now. Hurry down from the proverbial climb. Hurry down from your own efforts. One of the climactic moments of Jesus, he's quoted as saying this to people who are weary and burnt out by all the rules that the synagogue and the temple had demanded of them. Jesus is quoted as saying, are you weary? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? He says, come to me. Get away with me, and I'll show you how to take a real rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It doesn't sound like religion to me. In some ways, that doesn't even sound like Christianity to me. That's the invitation of Jesus. And so I want to ask you something. You want your innocence back? Let's start right here. Are you weary? Are you worn out? Are you burnt out? Are you tired? Maybe it's religion that's got you so exhausted. Maybe you're like me and you turn on sermons like this and you start to think, boy, here it comes. The preacher's about to tell me that I'm not enough. So let me do that and tell you that you and me, we're not enough. But here's the news that I can't wait to tell you. He is enough. Jesus literally says, I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. You can live without guilt, but you can't do it on your own. I am still doing this at 46 years old because only Jesus has set me free from my guilty conscience. Only Jesus has invited me to stop trying so hard and rest in him. The message is simple, and perhaps you've heard it before, but Jesus did for me what I could not do for myself. His invitation to Zacchaeus was predicated upon the reality that Zacchaeus, all the crooked, evil, sinister, selfish things you have done, and he had, Jesus was going to pay for. The things Zacchaeus could only pay for with his actual life, Jesus would give his life for Zacchaeus, so Zacchaeus could be forgiven forever. And that's the story we share here at Churchome. Nothing more, nothing less. You can be pure again and you can be innocent again, not by your doing and your reading and your studying and your meditating, but by receiving Jesus. And he can do for you what he did for Zacchaeus. I like to imagine in my mind how happy Zacchaeus must have been scurrying down that victory. Can you imagine? This crooked little man scurrying down the tree thinking to himself, the most popular guy of the day just called my name. And I want you to know, friend, the most popular man in the world, Jesus, knows your name. And maybe the very thing you thought I was going to say, I'm not saying it all. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. And that is, will you stop trying so hard? Will you stop striving so much? Will you stop worrying and anxiously attempting to compensate for your guilty conscience? Will you come down from that tree and let God do for you what you can never do for yourself? That's what's changed my life. That's what gives me hope. That's what keeps me going. That's why I'm here recording these messages. I pray in some small way these statements and phrases and scriptures and stories that we've shared have even at the very least ignited an appetite in you for this wonderful man named Jesus. I got to tell you, I love him. I got to tell you, he's more real to me than the jacket I'm wearing and the hairspray I put in my hair before we turned on these cameras. He's real. And I think he'll meet you right here, right now. Let me pray for you. God, thank you. You know the name of my friend who's watching this, wondering if you know their name. And so I'm asking that you would meet my friends right now. Maybe you're watching this and you're like, bro, I'd like to follow Jesus. Then just say that right now. I want to follow Jesus. And hear yourself say it. Because what's happened to me is happening to you right now. Jesus is jumping off the pages of the ancient text, and he's jumping into your heart to transform your life and give you a sense and a state of not guilty. It changes everything. It changes everything. We love you. Please, if you get a chance, join us over the course of the next few weeks here in the month of March, and we're going to talk more about this story, more dynamics and elements of how God gives us our innocence back. I think it can really help you in your daily life. Let us know if we can help you. You can go over to Pastor Chat. People are waiting to speak with you and talk with you. Love you, Churchome, and see you again next week.
With every breath I breathe, and with the life I live, Lord, Lord, you are worthy, and you get the glory. And with every song I sing, and with the life I live, Lord, you are worthy, and you get the glory, glory, glory. You're undefeated, you are never failing, no matter what comes my way. And now I see with my own eyes that you alone are worthy. You alone are worthy. You alone are worthy of all my praise, of all my praise. I'll sing your praise. I'm giving it all to you. I'm giving it all to you, Jesus. I lift my hands. I'll sing your praise. I'm giving it all to you. I'm giving it all to you. I lift my hands. I'll sing your praise. I'm giving it all to you. I'm giving it all to you. I lift my hands. I'll sing your praise. I'm giving it all to you. 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 Alone are worthy. You alone are worthy. Only you alone are worthy of all my praise, of all my praise. You alone are worthy. You alone are worthy. Only you alone are worthy, and only you alone are worthy. Only you alone are worthy of all my praise, of all